अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर।
वालेकुम सलाम।
आपकी तबीयत ठीक है अब सर?
जी बेहतर है। अब ओके, ऑल राइट, let other students come in as well, so then we'll start. Good afternoon and assalamu alaikum. Okay, all right, let's begin. I'll keep on admitting the students as well. I think still 3 minutes are left. All right. Okay, so we actually started discussing this and then we stopped the class. Okay, last time. Chapter 28, cost break-even and costing methods, and I discussed about cost as well, break-even, why it is important for every business to achieve break-even. Okay, we'll talk about it in the later part of this chapter as well. Right now, just start now. Let's start. What are the costs which are involved in a business? Okay, first is direct cost. So I have written in brackets material and labor cost. So by definition, direct cost is a cost which is directly related with a product. Now, what does it mean actually? Or we can directly we can associate that product with the product. Sorry, we can associate that cost with the product, and that means that that cost can easily be identified as far as a product is concerned. Like for example, a table is the job of one worker. Table manufacturing is the job of one worker, and for manufacturing each table, the worker is given, let's say, $10, right? So now it means if I say that what is the cost of labor in making each table, so can we easily identify that cost of from that table? Obviously easily. Why? Because $10 is the cost of making each table. So if there are two tables, so the direct cost will be $20. If there are three tables, direct cost will be $30. So that is why labor cost in that way can be a direct cost. Similarly, if I talk about material, think about you make toys, okay, and for that you use plastic, okay, and obviously a certain um, cost of plastic is involved in making toys, right? So again, it can be identified that how much cost of plastic is involved in each toy, right? So this is again possible to find it out. So when is possible to find out the cost involved in each product, how much cost is there in that product, we call it direct cost. Okay, so all this kind of material cost will be similarly. If I talk about you run a restaurant, okay, and let's say if I say you cook food, and for each dish you require certain kind of vegetables, grains, meat, right? So again, for each dish, it can easily be identified how much cost of ingredient is there, how much cost of chicken is involved in making each dish, right? So it can easily be identified. So again, it will be a direct cost, right? So this is how we identify this cost. So generally, material and labor costs, they are direct costs. Labor cost, obviously, the cost of labor in producing a product, and material cost is obviously whatever raw material you use or ingredients you use to produce a product. Because we can identify that how much cost is involved in each product, so we call them direct costs. Okay, then we have indirect cost, exactly opposite of it, that you cannot identify that cost from each product. It's not possible to do it. Like, think about rent of the building where goods are produced. Okay, let's say shoe manufacturing factory is there, and you do not own the factory, you have to pay rent of the building. Now, can you tell that how much rent is involved in making each pair of shoes? Obviously not. Why? Because there are so many shoes being produced, being manufactured. So you just know that yes, you have to pay rent at the end of the month, right? But how much rent, what cost of rent is involved in making one certain pair of shoes? We cannot calculate that, right? So then it becomes an indirect cost because we cannot identify that cost from each product. Simple as that. So that is why that would be an indirect cost that is exactly opposite of direct cost. Then we have fixed cost. So fixed cost is a generally all indirect costs, they are fixed cost as well. You can see that I've written in along with indirect cost overheads. So overheads are normally your expenses. Similarly, if I say you pay salary to your workers, okay. So when you pay salary to your workers, and worker is actually responsible to produce many items, and salary is not linked with the number of output being produced. Like the worker, doesn't matter whether the worker produces um, 10 items or 20 items or 5 or 50, whatever, the salary remains the same. Na? So if this happens, we call it a fixed cost. Okay, that means that doesn't matter whatever the level of output is, the cost does not change. That is why we call it fixed cost. And generally, it happens in case of indirect cost as well. But do not define it that way. Although fixed costs, generally all fixed costs, they are indirect costs as well, right? But you cannot define it that way. You cannot say that fixed cost is a cost which is directly associated with the product. No, this which is not directly associated with the product, because by definition you will explain it in a different way. Okay, but yes, they both can be seen as well. So salary can be a fixed cost. Okay. Similarly, rent of the building is also a fixed cost. But remember, fixed cost is a cost which does not change with the change in the level of output. Right? This is the definition. But fixed cost can change. Remember that. Now, what does it mean? It means, for example, you have a building and you use the building. Okay. Okay. After some time, you feel that we need to extend our business. We need to expand our business. So you hire another building. Now you have to pay more rent for that building as well. So rent has increased. Okay. So rent is a fixed cost, but it may change. But by definition, we say it does not change with the change in the level of output. Remember that. Fixed cost never changes whenever there is a change in output. And even if there is zero level of output, you have to pay the fixed cost. Again, the same example, rent of the building. Doesn't matter whether you produce or not, you have to pay the rent of the building. Okay, so it's a fixed cost. And if you even if you start producing, the rent will remain the same, the amount will be the same. Again, that is a fixed cost. So it does not change with the change in the level of output. But it can change if you increase the scale of output. Now, what does it mean when I say scale of output? When you increase the scale of production, that means you increase your all resources, like you increase more land, you increase labor, capital, enterprise. So you increase all factors of production, right? In that way, the capacity of the business will increase. Rent will also increase. So does the fixed cost, right? But after that, when you will start paying that rent, now when you will produce more, there will be no change in the rent. So rent actually changed just because you change the scale of the production. आपने कैपेसिटी बढ़ा ली अपने बिजनेस की. कैपेसिटी बढ़ने से it is possible that fixed cost may change, but output will not bring any change in the fixed cost at all. So by definition, fixed cost का ताल्लुक output के साथ नहीं होता, ये आपको ध्यान में रखना है, but it can change. Then we have variable cost, again opposite of fixed cost, a cost which does change with a change in the level of output. If you produce more, you have to pay higher cost. If you produce less, you have to pay lower variable cost. And if there is zero output level, you are not producing anything, then there will be zero variable cost. Do remember. Then we have semi-variable cost, like it is possible in everyday life as well. There are some costs which are a mixture of fixed and variable. Like for example, you pay wages to your sales staff. Okay, that is a fixed amount. Doesn't matter whether they are able to sell or not. Still, they will get the same amount of wage. That is a fixed cost. Okay, but apart from that, you say, all right, if you are able to sell more or whatever you are able to sell, we'll give you 2% of the value of the sales you will make. Now it means that the workers will be getting fixed wage, okay, and plus 2% of whatever sales they will make और जितनी भी चीजें वो बेचेंगे, right? Now this means if fixed wage तो wage तो नहीं मिलनी है, that is a fixed cost for the business, right? But if I talk about commission, जो मैंने आपको अभी बताया है 2% of the value of the sales, so commission जो है that is actually a variable cost. Do you know how? Because if the sales staff will make more sales, more commission will be paid to the sales staff. So it will increase the cost of the business. If sales staff is able to sell less items, then obviously less commission will be given to the sales staff. And if there is no sales being made by the worker or the sales staff, then there will be no commission paid. So it means that yes, it is varying with the level of sales business is making. So ये commission is part of variable cost, whereas wage is part of fixed cost. So in this case, it is a cost which is a mixture of fixed and variable. That is why we are calling it semi-variable cost. Then marginal cost, you need to understand that as well. Marginal means additional. So cost of producing an additional unit of a product, we call it marginal cost. Like, for example, if um, let's say you manufacture clothes and the cost of making one, uh, let's say, t-shirt is $20. So when you, let's say, stitch another t-shirt, your cost reaches to 20 $30. Now 20 to 30. Okay, so actually the total is 30, right? But what is addition of making that second t-shirt? The difference is 10 $10 no, from 20 to 30. That is the additional cost which is added in the cost to make it 30. पहले 20 थी ना, तो उसमें 10 ऐड किया तो 30 बना ना. So $10 is the marginal cost. So we call it the cost, the, the cost of producing an additional unit of a product. तो आप एक और unit बनाएंगे product का, so whatever cost that is involved in it, that addition, remember, that is the marginal cost of the product. Then average cost, this is actually the cost of producing one unit. Cost of producing one unit, and we can calculate it by uh, dividing total cost with the number of output as well. I'll just show it to you just a minute now. All right. So we have talked about direct cost, indirect cost, fixed cost. Do remember, when we talk about fixed cost, so fixed cost is like that. Fixed cost will look like that. You will see it a horizontal curve, right? So if we are plotting a cost curve, so we take cost here and we take output here, and we can easily see this is what? This is fixed cost, right? And now we can easily see it doesn't matter whatever the output. Let's say if this is output or this is the output, right? There is no change in the fixed cost at all, and that is the property of the fixed cost. Okay, it doesn't change. Doesn't matter whether output increases or output decreases. There is no change in the fixed cost at all. अगर मैं पॉइंट भी ले लूं तो लेट्स से अगर ये इट वाज 2, पहले आप दो चीजें बना रहे थे, यू इंक्रीज टू 3 या आप उसको यू रिड्यूस इट टू 1, so there is no change in the fixed cost. Let's say वो 100 है, it remains the same, right? Similarly, if I talk about now variable cost, again for those who have no idea about the curves, they can see it. Again for variable cost, you need to understand that now, because later on we will be using it in the graph. All right. Now variable cost will be like that. It will start from the origin 0 this way, and this shows that when output increases, variable cost will also increase. Now you can see this as well. If let's say this is the output, this is the output, your variable cost will be this much, right? But if output increases and goes there, so you can see that the variable cost is also going up. Okay, so this is actually the normal behavior of a variable cost. So the variable cost changes with the changes in the level of output. If there is zero level of output, okay, let's say, let me take the value. If let's say output is zero here, if output is zero, what is the variable cost? Variable cost is also zero at zero level of output. Okay, but when you actually increase it to 10, variable cost also goes to, let's say it's 20, and then let's say your output level reaches to 20, so your variable cost reaches to, let's say it reaches to 40, and then let's say it goes to 35, so your variable cost goes to 55. So this is how yeah, it can happen to variable cost. So you can see that variable cost increases whenever there is an increase in output. तो ये भी behavior आपको I guess पता चल गया है. So there is no problem. All right, then we did talk about average cost as well, na? Average cost. So the formula for average cost is total cost divided by output. So it's easy. Like for example, there are a business is producing 10 items, okay, and cost of each item is okay, all right, 10 items, and the total cost is, let's say, 2000. Okay, and if there is a question, the 2000 rupees, let's say, and now there is a question, what is the average cost of producing each item? मतलब एक item को बनाने की cost कितनी है? So it will be easier ना, using the same values. Total cost is 2000. It's written there. Divided by output is 10. So we will get the answer easily. The answer will be 200. The average cost is 200. Cost of producing one item is 200. The cost of producing one item जो है वो आपकी 200 आ जाएगी. इस तरह से ये एवरेज कॉस्ट है. मेरा जो मार्जिनल कॉस्ट मैंने आपको बताया वो है एडिशन. वो एडिशन क्या है? लेट मी जस्ट टेल यू हियर कि लेट्स से यहाँ पे यूनिट्स हैं और हम आगे ले लेते हैं जी टोटल कॉस्ट हम लेते हैं और मैं आगे यहाँ पे मार्जिनल कॉस्ट भी ले रहा हूँ. यूनिट 1 और टोटल कॉस्ट लेट्स से इसकी है 10 और नीचे में 2 यूनिट्स अगर लेट्स से वी आर प्रोड्यूसिंग and let's say it goes to 25 and at 3 units total cost reaches to 50. Now let's say this is these are the costs. So how to calculate marginal cost? Marginal cost is the addition in the total cost when a new or an additional unit is produced, right? तो पहले का तो हम नहीं निकालते क्योंकि वो डिफरेंस नहीं हमें पता. एडिशन पहले अगर 0 होगा तो फिर निकल सकता है. पहले का तो 10 ही हो जाएगा, हम कह सकते हैं, because total cost was 0 earlier, na? Now it is 10. So addition is the same as total cost 10. सेकंड में यूनिट में क्या हो गया, कितना एडिशन हुआ है हमें नजर आ रहा है. इसके अंदर भी इसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है कि ये एडिशन देखें ना, एक यूनिट कितना एडिशन हो रहा है हमें नजर आ रहा है 15. सो ऑब्वियसली दैट इज द मार्जिनल कॉस्ट. ये ऐड हो रहा है ना इसके अंदर, तो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है इसमें. इसी तरह से नेक्स्ट अगर निकालें तो वो भी हमें पता चल रहा है, वो आ रहा है 25 आ रहा है. ओके, सो दिस इज हाउ वी कैलकुलेट मार्जिनल कॉस्ट. अच्छा, मार्जिनल कॉस्ट का एक और फार्मूला भी है, मैं यहीं पे लिख रहा हूँ. ये खैर वही तरीका है लेकिन बस फार्मूले से भी हम कर सकते हैं. मार्जिनल कॉस्ट इज इक्वल टू परसेंटेज चेंज इन टोटल कॉस्ट ओवर परसेंटेज कहाँ से आ गई, चेंज इन टोटल कॉस्ट ओवर चेंज इन आउटपुट. ये भी इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, आप करके देख लें इस्तेमाल बेशक. ये अभी जब हमने ऊपर वैल्यूज ली है ना, उनको देखें. चेंज इन टोटल कॉस्ट मैं पहले देखता हूँ. चेंज इन टोटल कॉस्ट कितना आ रहा है, ये जो मैंने ब्रैकेट लगाई हुई है 15 का. अगर दूसरे यूनिट की बात कर रहा हूँ, मैं अगर ये कहता हूँ कि जी निकालें जी दूसरे यूनिट पे यहाँ पर कितनी है मार्जिनल कॉस्ट, अभी मैंने निकाली हुई ना 15, वो ऐसे ही निकली है। कैसे दूसरे यूनिट पे कि चेंज इन टोटल कॉस्ट कितना हुआ है, चेंज इन टोटल कॉस्ट है 15 15 कैसे आया, 25 माइनस 10 और डिवाइडेड बाय चेंज इन आउटपुट कितना है, वो भी हमें नजर आ रहा है 1। तुम्हारा आंसर वही आ रहा है 15 ही। तो ये फॉर्मूला बेसिकली मार्जिनल कॉस्ट का ये है, राइट। एंड दिस इज हाउ वी यू कैन कैलकुलेट मार्जिनल कॉस्ट एज वेल, बट वी कॉल इट द सेम, what cost of producing an additional unit of a product, cost of producing an additional unit unit of a product, right। ये शायद ना यहाँ पे जगह नहीं थी, यूनिट ऑफ अ प्रोडक्ट आपको नजर आ रहा है, ठीक है, इसको बोलते हैं मार्जिनल कॉस्ट। ओके, ऑलराइट। मेरे ख्याल मैंने आपको सारी टर्म्स एक्सप्लेन कर दी हैं। इफ नाउ you have any question, now do let me know, otherwise we'll move onwards. Yes, I'm waiting.
सर
जी बोले।
सर ये 15 को डिवाइड बाय 1 क्यों किया था?
इसलिए किया है कि 15 जो है ना, आप फार्मूले को मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ, आप जस्ट अ मिनट कि 15 डिवाइड बाय 1 क्यों किया हुआ है, क्योंकि मैंने आपको बताया यही है कि फार्मूला मार्जिनल कॉस्ट का क्या है, फार्मूला है चेंज इन टोटल कॉस्ट डिवाइड बाय चेंज इन यूनिट्स। तो अभी जो ऊपर एग्जांपल मैंने लिया है उसमें कितने यूनिट चेंज हुए हैं, जब हम
सर
अगर मैं
लेकिन अगर 15 के साथ 2 लिखा हुआ है ना, 2 यूनिट्स, तो हम 2 नहीं लेंगे 15 डिवाइड बाय 2।
हाँ 2 मतलब चेंज कितना आया, 2 लिखा नहीं हुआ, 2 तो है कि आप 2 बना रहे हैं, तो पहले से
अच्छा
चेंज
सही,
कितना है, पहले से
ठीक है सर,
चेंज तो 1
सॉरी।
का ही आया ना।
हाँ जी।
ओके, ऑलराइट। आगे चलते हैं फिर, अब आपको इसमें अगर इशू नहीं है तो ओके, मूविंग ऑनवर्ड्स। नाउ इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ कॉस्ट डेटा। So we have talked about different types of costs which are involved in a business. Now, why to know about these costs? What is the importance? First factor. Just a minute. First key factor in taking a profitable decision. You know that profit cannot be calculated without cost. And what is the reason? Reason is because profit is calculated using the formula revenue minus cost, right? So if you do not know about the cost figure, how can you calculate profit? This is not possible. Na? So that is one of the reasons. And you know that profit is one of the, in fact, the primary objective of every business. So that is why cost data is extremely important. Helps in taking pricing decisions. Again, it is very important. Now, for example, you deal in cell phones. Okay. So if you do not know your own cost, how can you set a price of the cell phone? You cannot sell it profitably, or you cannot charge a reasonable price, because if you know your cost, you will be able to charge a reasonable price which is affordable to people as well, and which will give some profit to you as well as a business. But if you do not know your cost, then it becomes difficult to charge the price, because you might end up charging too low a price which may give you loss, or you might end up charging too high a price which people would not like to buy, or they are not able to afford. और pricing इसलिए बहुत important है, especially when you have a competition, because if you have a competition, you can reduce your price, okay, and in order to attract customers, right? But if that is only possible when you know your cost. Like for example, if the cost of your cell phone is, for example, 20,000, and right now you are selling it at $25,000. Now let's say competition increases, so because you know your cost, that your cost is 20,000, you can reduce your price from 25,000 to 23,000 or even 22,000 in order to attract customers, right? Or so that your customers keep on buying from you. But if you do not know your cost, you might reduce your price below 20,000, and then you will realize that you are suffering loss. Okay, so that is why this is extremely important. Then efficiency of business can be measured. Again, that is something which is very important. Okay, all right. If a session expires and you need to come again. So efficiency of business can be measured. Now, efficiency, remember, efficiency, what does it mean? It means how good the business is in reducing its cost. Okay, how good the business is in using resources to good effect. Okay, so it means cost data basically tells a business that how efficient a business is, whether the wastage level was very low, okay, whether the resources were used in the best possible way, their productivity level was high, so and this can be shown by looking at the cost data, because cost data helps business to see whether cost is going down or going up. Because if it is going down, it means that business is efficient. They are using their resources in the best possible way, and there are lower wastage resulting from the production process. So that is why again, but that is efficiency can only be measured with the help of the cost data. So again, this is, and you know that efficiency is very important to measure, and you need to see, and you, in order to remain competitive, you need to remain efficient as well. And to remain efficient, you need to check your cost data time and again, whether there is actually a favorable effect on cost data or not, whether it is going down or not. The figures are favorable to business or not. Okay, and then helps in setting budget. Now, again, budget basically means that amount which is set aside for a certain kind of expenditure. Like, so business always sets a budget for certain types of expenditure, like marketing expenditure. You have to spend on workers training as well. There might be certain expenditure on research and development as well. There might be an expenditure on buying machinery and raw material as well. So yes, there might be there are certain expenditures which business has to consider, and for that, all businesses they set a budget. Why? Because budget basically shows this is the limit uh, uh, um, of spending, right? And you can spend your money within that limit, because this is a constraint given to the business, so that business will be using their resources in the best possible way. So budget can only be made effectively because you cannot actually set a budget uh, um, mm, without looking at the cost data. You'll say, okay, this is your budget, and the business has to maintain its expenditure within that budget. Now, this is not possible. There has to be a certain logic, and that logic is you need to see the cost data of the business, how much expenditure business is making in the past as well, or currently, and according to that, whatever expenses business is making, actually the the business sets a budget. Okay, and then they actually try to remain within that budget. Okay, so in order to make an effective budget, in order to make a realistic budget as well, the business requires their cost data so that they can allocate a certain amount of finance for that expenditure. Otherwise, if the cost data business is not unaware of the cost data, then whatever budget they set, it will not be actually a good budget, or it will be considered as a good budget. And the reason is I told you earlier, because budget always considers the total expenses business is making, and then a certain amount is allocated to the business to spend on them. But if you do not know about your cost data, how can you come to know about the expenses business is making? Obviously. So then, uh, uh, so it helps in making budget as well. And Budget is extremely important in every type of business. I am telling you, because it restricts businesses to overspend. Otherwise, if business has money, they will keep on spending. But budget restricts them to spend a certain amount, not more than that. Okay. All right. So that we are done with importance of cost data as well. But still, if anyone who is not clear about any of the point can let me know. Any issue? I'm waiting. If you have any issue, you can let me know. If you have no issue, we can move forward. So I should assume that there is no issue, right? All right. So moving onwards, problem is in classifying costs. There are certain problems as well in classifying cost as well. What are those? See, labor cost, direct or overhead. Direct labor cost can be direct. Labor cost can be indirect as well, right? Just a minute. So, okay, all right. I think that's all for today, right? So we'll continue that in the next class, and inshallah we'll try to cover the chapter more there. So thank you very much. That's all for today. I'll see you in the next class.